The Grand Assembly Hall fell silent as Nari approached the podium, clutching her research findings. The gathered representatives of 12 species watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to impatience. The massive chamber, carved from the living crystal of Centauri Prime, glittered under the light of 3 artificial suns. Nari's 4-fingered hands trembled slightly as she arranged her notes. "The artifacts we found on Sector 9 bear the same markings as those from the Vega system," she said, projecting holographic comparisons. "These aren't mythological symbols. They're evidence of the humans." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Elder Mook rose to his feet, his grey skin wrinkling around his breathing slits. "Young one, these humans are merely tales to frighten younglings. Focus on real archaeological work." Nari stood her ground, though her tail twitched nervously behind her. "With respect, Elder, the evidence is overwhelming. The metal alloys in these artifacts don't match any known species technology. The carbon dating places them exactly during the dark time, when our histories go blank." Ambassador Doon of the Floaters bobbed gently in his gravity suit. "We all know what caused the dark time, the great plague that swept our systems. Nothing to do with fairy tales about bipedal warriors." "But that's just it," Nari insisted, tapping her display to show new images. "I've found medical records suggesting the plague affected memory centers specifically. What if it was designed to make us forget something? Or someone?" The Hive Queen's representative buzzed angrily. "You waste the Council's time with children's stories. Humans are not real. They are like the dragons of old Earth legends, or the space krakens of the Orion tales." Nari projected a final image, a fragment of ancient starship hull. "Then explain." "This writing, it matches no known language in our databases, yet appears on artifacts across 12 systems." Elder Mook waved his hand dismissively. "Enough. The Council thanks you for your creative interpretations. Perhaps you should consider a career in entertainment rather than science." Laughter followed Nari as she gathered her research and left the podium. Only Professor Jiho, her old teacher, offered a sympathetic glance as she passed. Outside the council chambers, Nari leaned against a wall, fighting back tears of frustration. 3 years of research, dismissed in minutes. "They fear what they don't understand," came a soft voice. Professor Jiho stood beside her, his old eyes kind. "But that doesn't make you wrong." "Why won't they even consider it?" Nari asked. "The evidence is right there," Jiho sighed. "The Council prefers comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. The idea that an entire species helped shape our galaxy and then vanished, or worse, that we somehow forgot them, is too disturbing. But if humans were real, what happened to them? And why does no one remember?" Jiho glanced around to ensure they were alone. "Come to my lab tonight. There's something I haven't shown anyone else." Later that evening, as 3 of the planet's 5 moons rose in the purple sky, Nari made her way through the quiet streets of the capital. The scientific district was nearly deserted, most researchers having returned to their living quarters. "Professor." Jiho's lab was dark, except for a single light in the back room. Nari found him hunched over an ancient device. "Is that—" she breathed. "Yes, a data storage unit. Pre-dark time." Jiho's fingers worked delicately over the controls. "I found it buried beneath the ruins on Proxima B. I've spent years trying to access it." The device hummed to life, projecting a flickering image. A face appeared, unmistakably similar to their own species, but different. Toe scales, strange colored eyes, and hair on top of the head. "My name is Captain Sunwoo," the recording began. "If you're seeing this, our mission failed. The shadows are coming. Humanity stands ready to hold the line, but if we fall, no." "That once we were allies," Nari gasped. "A human," the message continued. "We've detected their memory weapon. If deployed, it will erase all knowledge of Earth and humanity from the galactic consciousness. This recording is shielded, remember us. And if you can, warn—" The message cut off abruptly. "That's all I've been able to recover," Jiho said quietly. "We have to show the Council," Nari insisted. "They won't believe it. Not yet." Jiho looked grave. "Something is happening, Nari. Reports are coming in from the outer systems. Ancient beacons dormant for centuries are activating. A soft ping from Jiho's communication device interrupted them. The old professor checked the message, his eyes widening. "What is it?" Nari asked. "A ship just appeared at the edge of charted space. Massive, unlike anything in our records." He showed her the incoming transmission, and they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple, in a language no living being had heard for centuries, yet somehow they understood. This is Admiral Hana Kim of the Earth Alliance. After 300 years, humanity has returned. We come in peace to reclaim our place among the stars. As the words echoed through the lab, the lights of the city outside began to flicker and dim. Across the night sky, a new star appeared, bright and unmistakable. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy's long amnesia was about to end. Admiral Hana Kim stood on the bridge of the reclamation, watching as the first transmissions were sent to the galactic hub. After 200 years of exile and rebuilding, humanity had returned. The massive view screen showed the swirling colors of the Milky Way, home despite everything that had happened. "They've received our signal," her communications officer reported. "Multiple species are responding with confusion." Hana nodded. "They don't remember us, just as our intelligence suggested." On the central planet, Taiho rushed through the archives, accessing restricted files. The beings calling themselves humans matched records sealed away centuries ago, records of a powerful ally who had once saved them all. Hana paced the length of the bridge, her boots clicking against the polished floor. The crew worked quietly, at their stations, each feeling the weight of this moment. For generations they had prepared for this return, telling stories of Earth and the colonies that were lost, defending the galaxy from the shadow invasion. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Jiwoo from the sensor station, "we're detecting approach vectors. 50 ships from the Coalition fleet." "Defensive posture only," Hana ordered. "Shield at 40%, visible but not threatening." Captain Bomi, her second-in-command, stepped closer. "Admiral, do you really think they've completely forgotten us? 200 years isn't that long." Hana's eyes remained fixed on the approaching fleet. The shadow weapon wasn't designed to erase data. It targeted living memory, neural pathways specifically. Each generation would pass down less and less until we became nothing but myths. Her hand touched the small pendant at her neck, a piece of metal from old Earth. "My great-grandfather was there when we made the decision to retreat, to save what remained of humanity while the rest held the line." The communications panel lit up. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Coalition flagship." On screen, a being appeared, reptilian features, intelligent eyes. "Unknown vessel. This is Commander Vex of the Galactic Coalition. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Hana stepped forward. "This is Admiral Hana Kim of the Earth Alliance. We are returning to Sector 7, as is our right. We once called this region home." Confusion flickered across the alien commander's face. "Earth? There is no record of your species in our database, Admiral. Kim, was it? Sector 7 has been unclaimed territory since the Dark Time." "The Dark Time," Hana repeated. "That's what you call it now. We call it the Shadow War." On the central planet, Taiho's access card finally unlocked the sealed section of the archives. Dust floated in the air as the door slid open, for the first time in centuries. As the junior archivist for the Coalition, he wasn't supposed to be here. These records were restricted by ancient protocols no one remembered setting. But the sudden appearance of the massive fleet had triggered old emergency systems, and with them, a message had appeared on Taiho's screen. "Contingency Protocol Alpha, in case of human return. Humans." The word had sent chills down his spine. The same mysterious species the young archaeologist Nari had been ridiculed for researching just yesterday. The sealed room contained physical records, actual paper and film, technology so old it had outlasted the digital purges. Taiho lifted a bound book, carefully turning its brittle pages. It was a treaty signed 3 centuries ago between the Coalition and something called the United Earth Government. "By the stars," he whispered. They were real. Back on the reclamation, tension grew as more Coalition ships arrived. "They're scanning us, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Jiwoo. "Deep scans, trying to analyze our technology. Let them look, Hana said calmly. Ji-woo, project the historical records. Let's remind them who we are. The transmission to the Coalition fleet changed, showing historical footage. Humans fighting alongside various alien species, defending colonies, signing treaties. Humans teaching medicine to Procyon scientists. Humans sharing agricultural techniques with Rigelian farmers. And finally, humans standing against the twisted black ships of the shadows as civilian transports evacuated. 200 years ago, Hana continued, humanity sacrificed everything to stop the shadow invasion. We lost Earth. We lost our colonies. Those who survived retreated beyond the Sagittarius Arm to rebuild. Now we have returned to reclaim our place. In the archive room, Taeho found a sealed container marked with biohazard symbols. Inside was a small vial and a note. Shadow bioweapon. Targeted memory centers. Species affected. All known sapients except humans. Effect: erasure of all neural pathways related to human interaction. His hands shook as he read further. Humans immune due to unique brain structure. Final coalition order before effect. Preserve these records. Remember them. They saved us all. Taeho grabbed as many records as he could carry and ran toward the Council chambers. On the reclamation, the standoff continued. Admiral, Bommy said quietly. They're moving into attack formation. Hana sighed. 2 centuries of planning, and they welcome us with weapons. Your orders? Hana touched her pendant again, then straightened her shoulders. Signal the fleet. Defensive formation Theta, and activate the beacon network. Throughout the galaxy, on 100 worlds, the dormant beacons left behind by the retreating humans burst to life. Monuments thought to be nothing but curious ruins began projecting images into the skies of every major world, the true history of the Shadow War. In the Coalition Council chamber, alarms blared as the ancient projector, in the center of the room activated by itself. Elder Mook was mid-sentence when the image of a human woman in a military uniform appeared above them. This is General Yunha Lee's final message to the Coalition. The memory weapon has been deployed. You will forget us, but we hope one day to return. Until then, look to the stars and remember, you are never alone. As the message played, Taeho burst into the chamber, arms full of ancient records. They're telling the truth. Humans were our allies. Outside the council windows, the sky filled with projections of the past, a past that had been stolen from them, and in orbit, the human fleet held position, waiting for the galaxy to remember. Dr. June Park analyzed the scan results with growing concern. The memory alteration is neurological, not cultural, he explained to Admiral Kim. The Shadows engineered a pathogen that specifically targeted memory centers dealing with human interactions. Hana frowned. So, after we sacrificed our homeworlds to stop the Shadow advance, they ensured no one would remember we had saved them, June confirmed. We became myths while we rebuilt in the small Magellanic Cloud. Meanwhile, Nari discovered cave paintings on a remote moon showing humans fighting alongside her ancestors against dark, twisted ships. Dr. June Park pushed his glasses up his nose, the holographic brain scan rotating slowly in front of him. The lab aboard the Reclamation hummed with activity as his team processed samples from 12 different species. What they found was both fascinating and horrifying. Look here, he pointed, directing Admiral Hana's attention to a specific section of the neural map. This cluster of synapses should contain associative memories. In humans, it's where we store faces, names, emotional connections to other beings. Hana leaned closer. And in the Coalition species, dead tissue, not damaged, rewired. June's voice carried quiet outrage. The pathogen didn't just erase memories of us. It created new neural pathways that actively reject any information about humanity. When they see evidence of humans, their brains literally cannot process it. Lieutenant Doyun, the medical officer, added, "It's like trying to explain color to someone born blind. Their brains simply cannot form the concept anymore." Hana's hands curled into fists. 200 years we waited, rebuilding our civilization in exile. And all this time, they weren't just forgetting us. They were physically incapable of remembering. There's more, June said, his voice grave. The scans show the pathogen is still active, passed down genetically. Even with our historical records broadcasting across their worlds, their minds are fighting to reject the truth. Admiral Hana paced the lab, her face a mask of controlled anger. Can it be reversed? June exchanged glances with his team. Theoretically, yes. The neural pathways weren't destroyed, just blocked and rerouted. If we could develop a counter-agent, do it, Hana ordered, whatever resources you need. As the Admiral left the lab, the ship's communications officer hurried to catch up with her. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the surface. Someone named Tejo says he's found archives proving our alliance with the Coalition. Hana's step faltered. Someone remembered? Not exactly. He found sealed records, physical documents the pathogen couldn't affect. A small spark of hope ignited in Hana's chest. Bring him aboard. On the remote moon of Vega 2, Nari brushed dust from the cave wall, her headlamp illuminating ancient paintings. After being laughed out of the council chamber, she had returned to her original dig site, determined to find more evidence. What she uncovered exceeded her wildest hopes. The cavern walls stretched hundreds of meters, covered in detailed murals. They told a story, a history painted by her ancestors during the Shadow War. The images showed bipedal figures, humans, fighting alongside her own people against twisted black ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. One scene showed a human hand clasping the three-fingered hand of her species' ancient leader. Another depicted human ships forming a protective barrier around evacuation vessels. Professor Jiho, she called into her communicator, her voice echoing in the vast cave. You need to see this. They weren't just allies, they saved us. As she moved deeper into the cavern, her light revealed something unexpected. A sealed metal door embedded in the rock, untouched for centuries. I found something else, she whispered. Some kind of bunker. The ancient door creaked open under her touch, revealing a small room filled with dust-covered equipment. In the center stood a stasis pod, its power somehow still functioning after all these years. Nari approached cautiously, wiping grime from the viewing panel. Inside was a human. Aboard the Reclamation, Taiho stood nervously in the conference room, surrounded by the highest-ranking human officers. The documents he'd smuggled from the archives were spread across the table. These prove everything, he said. Treaties, battle plans, medical records, even warnings about the shadow weapon. Admiral Hana studied him curiously. How are you even discussing this? Dr. Park says your species should be neurologically incapable of processing information about humans. Tejo touched a small scar behind his ear. I was born with a rare neural condition. Part of my memory center developed abnormally. The doctors implanted a synthetic neural cluster when I was a child. His eyes widened with sudden understanding. That's why I can see the truth while others can't. The pathogen couldn't affect artificial neural tissue. Captain Bomi leaned forward. How many others have this condition? Very few. Maybe 100 across all Coalition species. A communications officer burst into the room. Admiral, urgent message from the Coalition fleet. Their weapons are powering up. They're demanding we leave the system immediately. Hana's expression hardened. They still can't accept the truth. It's worse than that, Taiho said grimly. I think someone is actively working against you. The archives were accessed shortly after I left. All the human records have been destroyed. By the shadows? Captain Bomi asked. Taiho shook his head. The shadows never truly left. Some of their agents remained, disguised within our society, ensuring their weapon continued to work. Hana's communicator beeped. Admiral, this is Dr. Park. We've synthesized a prototype counteragent. It might reverse the neural blocking, but we'd need to distribute it across the entire Coalition population. Before Hana could respond, another urgent call came through. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Vega 2. A researcher named Nari claims she's found a human survivor in stasis. And she says the cave paintings tell the whole story of the war. Hope and determination flashed in Hana's eyes. Tell Dr. Park. His counteragent just found its delivery system, the beacons our ancestors left behind. They can distribute more than just information. She turned to the view screen showing the Coalition fleet moving into attack position. We didn't come this far to be forgotten again. Humanity sacrificed everything once to save this galaxy. If necessary, we'll do it again. Teho looked at the human admiral with new understanding. You never intended to reconquer, did you? You came back to warn us. Hana's gaze remained fixed on the approaching fleet. The shadows are returning, and this time the galaxy will remember who stands with them. The shadow vessels emerged from the dimensional rift exactly as the ancient records had predicted. Their twisted organic ships spread across the defenseless border worlds until they encountered the waiting human fleet. This is Admiral Hana Kim of Earth Alliance. You will retreat or be destroyed, she transmitted, as 12,000 human ships decloaked. On the Galactic Council, Teho fought desperately to convince the representatives. The memory block is breaking. These humans saved us before, and they've returned to save us again. The massive shadow vessels poured through the rift like black oil spreading across the stars. Their ships, if they could even be called ships, defied normal physics. They twisted and reshaped themselves, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The only illumination came from the eerie purple energy that pulsed through what might have been veins or power conduits. On the border colony of New Proxima, panic spread as communications went dark. 3 billion people watched in horror as the Shadow Fleet blocked out their sun. Then something unexpected happened. The stars themselves seemed to shift. Where empty space had been moments before, sleek silver ships appeared. Thousands of them, their hulls bearing the symbol of Earth. On the bridge of the Reclamation, Admiral Hana Kim stood tall, her uniform crisp despite 3 days without sleep. The reports from her intelligence team had been clear. The shadows had returned earlier than expected. All ships report ready, Admiral, Captain Bomi announced. Stealth systems disengaged. The shadows see us now. Hana nodded, her expression stone. Open a channel to their command vessel. The view screen filled with darkness, not the darkness of space, but something deeper. A voice that wasn't a voice slithered into their minds rather than their ears. Humans, you survived. This is Admiral Hana Kim of Earth Alliance, she transmitted, her voice steady despite the chill running down her spine. You will retreat, or be destroyed. This galaxy is under our protection. Laughter, if such a horrible sound could be called laughter, echoed through the bridge. Your protection? The galaxy has forgotten you even existed. We made certain of that. They will not stand with you. Hana's eyes narrowed. 12,000 human ships have just decloaked surrounding your fleet. The choice is yours. In the Coalition, Council chambers chaos reigned. The emergency session had devolved into shouting and confusion as reports flooded in of both shadow vessels and the mysterious human fleet. Teho stood at the center, holding the ancient treaty document over his head. Look at this, read it. These humans were our allies 2 centuries ago. They fought the shadows and sacrificed themselves so we could survive. Elder Mook pounded his ceremonial staff. Enough of these fabrications. These humans appear from nowhere with impossible technology, and we're supposed to trust them. The memory block is breaking, Teho insisted, pointing to the dozens of counselors who were clutching their heads in pain as the neural pathogen fought against remembered truths. Dr. Park's counteragent is working. These humans saved us before, and they've returned to save us again. A new voice cut through the chamber. He speaks the truth. The crowd parted as Nari entered, accompanied by a figure that made the entire council fall silent. Walking beside her was a human woman in an ancient, tattered uniform. Despite centuries in stasis, Commander Sumin Lee stood straight, her eyes taking in the council that had forgotten her species. 200 years ago, I commanded the rear guard that held the shadows back while your ancestors evacuated, she said, her voice strong despite her obvious physical weakness. My crew and I sealed ourselves in stasis when we realized what the shadow weapon was doing. She pointed to the emblem on her sleeve, identical to the one on the ships now facing the Shadow Fleet. We are not your enemies. We never were. In space. The human fleet moved with impossible precision, cutting off shadow escape routes. The technology gap was obvious. 2 centuries of development focused on a single purpose, defeating the shadows when they inevitably returned. "They're targeting the colony," Captain Bomey reported as shadow weapons powered up. "Intercept pattern." "Delta," Hana ordered, "deploy the shield network." Across the human formation, smaller vessels launched what looked like satellites. Within seconds, they formed an energy barrier between the shadows and the colony. The shadow attack struck the shield and held. "Impossible," the shadow voice hissed. "Your technology was not this advanced." 200 years, Hana replied coldly. "We used the time wisely." On the colony below, billions watched as human ships engaged the shadows in a dance of light and darkness. The colony's defense systems, considered state-of-the-art by coalition standards, were primitive compared to both fleets. Back in the council chamber, the effects of Dr. Park's counteragent spread rapidly. As the neural blocks dissolved, pain gave way to remembrance. Councillors gasped as memories long buried surfaced. Memories of human friends, human teachers, human protectors. Elder Mook himself fell to his knees as the truth overwhelmed him. "I remember now. I was a child when they came. The shadows, the humans evacuated us. My mother, she worked with a human doctor, Dr. Unha. She saved thousands of our children." Commander Sumin approached him gently. "Unha Kim was my sister. She stayed behind on your homeworld while we covered the evacuation." Tears streamed down the elder's face. "She died protecting our nurseries." A thunderous boom shook the council, building as shadow weapons struck the planetary defenses. The shield generators, designed without knowledge of shadow technology, were failing. "We need to help them," Taiho urged the council. "The human fleet is all that stands between us and extinction." Commander Sumin's communicator crackled. "Admiral." Hana's voice came through, strained but determined. "Commander, our primary defense line is holding, but we didn't anticipate their numbers. We need the coalition's help." Sumin looked at the gathered representatives, many still reeling from recovered memories. 2 centuries ago we fought together against this enemy. Will you stand with us again?" For a moment the chamber was silent. Then Elder Mook stood, his ancient frame straightening with new purpose. "Signal all coalition vessels. Stand with the humans, remember our alliance." Across the sector, coalition ships that had been poised to attack the human fleet suddenly changed course, forming up alongside their forgotten allies. In orbit above, New Proxima, Admiral Hana watched as coalition cruisers moved into formation alongside human vessels. A grim smile touched her lips. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered, "human and coalition." She stood straight, addressing the combined fleet. "For 200 years, the shadows believed they had won by making you forget us. Today, we prove them wrong. Together, we will show them that the galaxy remembers its defenders." The human and coalition ships advanced as one against the Shadow Fleet, writing a new chapter in a history that would never again be forgotten. The final battle unfolded above the galactic core. Human vessels maneuvered with impossible precision, their weapons cutting through shadow defenses. On the surface below, Dr. June Park activated the counter-agent, dissolving centuries of engineered amnesia. As memories returned, the galactic species joined the fight with their own ships. Admiral Hana Kim led the final charge, her vessel striking at the Shadow Command ship. 3 weeks later, representatives of 16 species gathered to sign the new alliance treaty. Humans were no longer myths. They had reasserted their place as guardians of the galaxy, and this time they would be remembered. The galactic core blazed with the light of 1,000 suns, its swirling nebulae a backdrop for the most decisive battle in the history of 16 species. Shadow vessels moved like ink through water, their twisted organic forms bending in ways that defied physics. Against them, the silver ships of humanity's fleet formed intricate patterns, dancing through the void with precision born from 2 centuries of preparation. On the bridge of the reclamation, Admiral Hana Kim tracked the battle on holographic displays. Her uniform jacket was unbuttoned, dark circles under her eyes after 6 days of continuous engagement. "Formation Alpha is breaking through their left flank," Captain Bommy reported. Coalition vessels are holding the line at coordinates 227 Mark IV. Hana nodded, studying the movement of shadow ships. Their tactics were changing, becoming more desperate as the combined human coalition fleet pushed them back toward the dimensional rift they had emerged from. They're adapting to our targeting systems, she noted. Shift all vessels to manual targeting protocols. Lieutenant Jiwoo looked up from his station. Admiral, that will reduce our accuracy by... The shadows can predict computer targeting. Hana cut in. They can't predict human intuition. Our crews have trained for this. The order went out, and across the fleet, gunners took manual control of their weapons systems. What should have been a disadvantage became strength, as shadow vessels found themselves unable to anticipate the seemingly random, yet devastatingly effective, firing patterns of human ships. On the Coalition homeworld below, Dr. June Park stood in the control room of the largest communications array on the planet. Around him, technicians from 6 different species worked frantically, calibrating the network of ancient beacons that humans had left scattered throughout the galaxy centuries ago. Neural counteragent synthesis complete, a technician reported. Loading into beacon network. June took a deep breath, his hand hovering over the activation panel. This is Dr. June Park of Earth Alliance. Counteragent deployment in 3, 2, 1. He pressed his palm against the panel. Across the galaxy, thousands of dormant beacons pulsed with blue light. The counteragent, engineered to reverse the effects of the shadow memory weapon, spread through communication channels, water supplies, and air filtration systems on every inhabited world. In cities and villages, on starships and space stations, beings of all species suddenly stopped in mid-motion. Their eyes widened as neural pathways, blocked for centuries, suddenly reopened. Memories that had been stolen from them cascaded back, faces of human friends, shared victories, cultural exchanges, and the truth of the Shadow War. Elder Mook, watching the battle from the Coalition Command Center, gasped as the full weight of memory returned. "I remember all of it," he whispered. "Gods above, I remember what they did for us." He turned to his communications officer. "Signal all Coalition vessels. Full military support to the human fleet. Authorization code, Earth's Shield." Across the battlefield, thousands of Coalition ships that had been holding defensive positions suddenly surged forward. The full military might of 16 species, awakened from 2 centuries of enforced amnesia, joined the fight against their ancient enemy. In the rift at the center of the battle, the Shadow Command vessel pulsed with malevolent energy. Its form was larger than the others, a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to bend light around it. "That's their command ship," Hana said, her voice steady as she studied the monstrosity. "All this time, they've been coordinating from within. The dimensional rift itself." She activated the fleet-wide communication channel. "This is Admiral Kim. The Shadow Command vessel has been identified. Prepare for final approach." The reclamation accelerated, accompanied by 12 of the most powerful human battleships. They cut through the chaos of battle, their path cleared by Coalition vessels that sacrificed themselves to open a corridor to the command ship. "Their defenses are still too strong," Bomey warned as shadow energy weapons lashed out, destroying 3 escorts. Hana's eyes narrowed. "Deploy the Lightbringer." Deep within the reclamation, a weapon 2 centuries in development activated. It was based on the same technology that had created the beacons, designed not to destroy matter, but to purify it of shadow influence. "Lightbringer deployed and ready," Weapons Control reported. "Target the command vessel and fire," Hana ordered. A beam of pure white light erupted from the reclamation, striking the Shadow Command ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the darkness began to recede, revealing the true form. Beneath, a vessel remarkably similar to those used by the Coalition, twisted and corrupted by shadow influence. "They're not a separate species," Hana realized. "They're corrupted versions of us, of all of us." The light spread, clearing away, the darkness like morning sun burning off fog. Across the battlefield, shadow vessels began to transform, returning to their original forms as the corruption was purged. The dimensional rift collapsed in on itself, sealing the pathway the shadows had used to enter this reality. The battle was over. 3 weeks later, in the Great Council Chamber on the Coalition homeworld, representatives of 16 species gathered beneath a dome of crystal and light. At the center of the chamber stood a circular table, with Admiral Hannah Kim seated as humanity's representative. For too long, our shared history was stolen from us, Elder Mook addressed the assembly. For too long, we forgot those who sacrificed everything to protect us. He turned to Hannah, bowing deeply. Humanity stood as our shield when darkness came. They gave up their home, their place among us, to ensure our survival. And when they returned, they found not recognition, but suspicion and hostility. Teho stepped forward, carrying an ancient document on a cushion of red silk. Today we restore what was lost. The Alliance Treaty, first signed 300 years ago, is renewed. One by one, representatives approached the table, adding their signatures to the document. Human and alien hands together, rebuilding what had been broken. Commander Sumin, the human who had slept in stasis for centuries, stood at Hannah's side. When we made our last stand, she said quietly, I never imagined I would live to see this day. Hannah smiled, watching as Nari, now appointed as the official historian of the renewed alliance, carefully documented the proceedings. Our ancestors never lost faith that someday the truth would return. That's what makes humans different. We hope, even when it seems foolish to do so. As the final signature was added, the great crystal dome above them pulsed with light, broadcasting the ceremony to every world in the Alliance. On countless planets, beings of all species watched as humanity officially returned to the galactic community. The treaty is signed, Elder Mook announced. The Alliance is renewed, and this time we will remember. That night, as celebrations filled the streets of every major city across 16 worlds, Admiral Hannah Kim stood on a balcony overlooking the capital. Captain Bomi joined her, carrying 2 glasses of coalition wine. To remembrance, Bomi offered, raising her glass. Hannah touched her glass to Bomi's, and to the future. She looked up at the stars, bright and clear in the night sky. Humanity lost Earth, but we found something more, a place in a galaxy where we're not alone. Far above, the Reclamation orbited silently, its mission complete. And on its hull, freshly painted, the words that would define humanity's renewed place in the cosmos, never forgotten, never alone. The galaxy had tried to forget humanity once, it never would again.